start off with quite a general question that I'll put to all of you. Just very briefly, how do you define happiness? And what role do you believe money plays in that?
How do I define happiness? I'm not going to go there. That'll take like half an hour. But where does money play? I think we've spoken about this before. I think each phase of my life, money played a different role. And I would say today that financial freedom for me has brought me some kind of, let's say, great mental well-being.
Ghazlan, how would you?
I think in terms of happiness, the way I look at it is that it's this underlying sentiment, and it's not something that is solicited by money or by an external factor. It's actually a lot of other things that give you fulfillment and contentment, like, understanding yourself, understanding your values, being aligned to your values, living authentically. So that's, I think, that, happiness. The way money contributes to it, I think money is an amplifier and an enabler. So if you're doing the work of being happy, which is what I believe you actually choose and you work to be happy, then money amplifies that.
Yeah.
And I think, the opposite is true as well.
Yes, and is it also true to say that money allows you then to do the things when you work on yourself?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Katja, would you like to?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. So I think money definitely will not be the reason to be happy. I think often it's the opposite. However, I think it gives you security and freedom, what you just also said. And I think if you have this security within yourself, it makes you more relaxed and less stressful. So I think it contributes to it, but it's not the reason.
Yeah. So while we're with you, Katja, with your extensive experience with ultra high net worth individuals, why do you think some of those individuals or families are more happy than others? Because there can be this assumption that more money, more happiness. Is that true in your experience?
I just, maybe as an explanation, so I hosted the first family office gathering 13 years ago in Germany, basically for wealthy families. So, and over the last 13 years, I'm regularly hosting these events for wealthy families all over the world in 9 different locations. So obviously I hear a lot, or it's basically my network. So and the question is, and it's super interesting actually to see why, because they are all super wealthy, and why are some absolutely happy in their life and some are really depressed and struggling. So what we cover this topic, or we cover all the psychology topics in the family as well at our conferences, because money is one thing we are talking about, like investment stuff, but what really drives me is everything which is in your mindset and also the family mindset. So, and here we come to the happiness part. And when, for example, a third generation is talking about how they grew up in the family, then you see kind of patterns when you grew up in a family where you get a lot of love and you spend a lot of time with a family, and you really get the education, you get the values passed on to you. This is really where it makes the difference. And when you have kids who have all the money and they have nannies and everyone else is taking care of them, this is often the case. And another thing is learning gratitude. So I'm just remembering a speech of a third generation mom. She said she does it every night when she goes to bed with her daughter. They do like a gratitude journaling where they just talk about, okay, what was great today? And if it's just the ice cream which they had. So it's really about educating these values. It's important.
You're so right. The values are so important. and just a little plug, I guess, is why I created a financial gratitude journal for that exact reason, to help us create a space where we can be grateful for money. You know, it's safe to do that. And speaking of kind of safety and how women feel about money, actually, Ghislaine, I'd love to ask you, as a serial entrepreneur and as a woman who's passionate about helping other women, what advice would you have for women in their entrepreneur journey when it comes to financial literacy or money mindset?
I think one of the things that I see often when I interact with female founders and entrepreneurs, especially first-time entrepreneurs, is the fact that, you know, they got it right in terms of knowing what problem they're solving, looking at sometimes the operational aspect, the creative aspect of what they do. But when it comes to the financial side of things, it's, you know, that there's this either fear or there's a delegation or there's a lack of engagement in that side. And the reality is that as an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter how amazing your idea is, if you're not in your numbers all the time, you can't delegate that, then it's very likely that that business is not going to, you know, succeed, because you know, numbers are pretty much everything. And so that is one thing that I see. I think that, you know, it's important to understand your margins. It's important to understand your profitability. It's important to understand what business model you've got. And that's the part that I see lacking. And the exciting part is that it's actually not as difficult or as challenging. It's just around us taking the step to understand and immerse ourselves in that space, coming from someone who was not good in math. So I understand that fear of numbers. And what that does actually to female founders is that it gives them an additional tool to succeed with their business, exactly, to use them in a creative way to solve problems for their business, integrate new verticals for revenues, even finance their businesses, for example. So I think if there's anything, it would be that we equip ourselves and we take it upon us to really kind of get into the number side of things, because we seem to kind of get it right in many other areas.
Yeah, it's great advice. It's really, there's so much power in those numbers.
100%, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. So, Rania, I've gone blank. I'm very sorry. Sorry. You know, on this topic as well, you are a regular advocate for women in business, for financial literacy, for financial independence for women. Like, what advice would you have for anyone in the audience who is feeling a little bit insecure about their money situation, doesn't know where to start when it comes to looking at their finances, and even also tell us why you're so passionate about that?
So first of all, advice, definitely hire Carol. I'm very, very passionate about this, and I think now more than ever. In the past, I used to be passionate about it from a personal, side, because I grew up with a mother that, that had to take care of us financially, and she always used to put in my head, make sure that you make your own money. You never know what happens, etc. So I really focused. I was very passionate about what I did. So I never really did it for money, but I loved the fact that I was independent. Later on in life, and again, you know what, I'm a career girl. I was always working since I was 16. So my circle and the people that were around me were women that were more like me. And my mother, I was more like her. When I decided to take a break from corporate after 20 years, which was 3 years ago when I left Shell Hoop Group, and I did it very much to kind of recenter and think, two things that I want to mention about this. One, I was able to do that because I had managed my finances correctly. So that's why I love the word freedom, because it gave me options. It gave me an option to get out of a burnout situation, to spend more time with my girls, to travel and do some things for me. It gave me a platform. It doesn't mean it wasn't a lot of money, but it gave me that option. One of the things that I did in the first year is I took a coaching certification, and I'm very active on social media. So I found the more that I speak, the more that women kind of want to listen and the more questions they have. So I said, you know what, I'm going to start coaching women. And the first year I did it for free. And it was like gathering data to start understanding our community more. And to my huge surprise, the more I got out of my circle, the more, we have a certain perception, because a lot of women kind of have this image or put on this mask, and you think that they are financially stable because they have everything. But dig a little bit, they don't have the freedom, because if they are not working, and I'm not saying that women that are working have the freedom, because women that are not working obviously have a lot to do at home, but they should also have the freedom. And I realized a lot of men, partners, were really holding back this information from their wives or their partners. And what I also found is a lot of women were not curious enough to push and to learn what is going on, or maybe to show interest to their partner, or to be able to speak about finances at the same level. That also alleviates a lot of the pain when it comes to partners, right? When they know that their partner can speak about how he lost this investment, or that real estate is too much, 'cause sometimes they want to provide. But so that for me was a big aha moment. And I became even more passionate, and I spoke about it a lot. And one story, and there was this one woman that I was coaching who was married to a multi-billionaire and was with him for so many years. And this man owned property all over the world. And then this woman, when she decided to leave him because he was, with another woman, found herself having to struggle to pay for a one-bedroom in Dubai, because he was using the money as a tool to try to gain her back. So that, for me, gets to a point where it's not just about freedom. I find that criminal. Now, obviously, it was too late for her to kind of, educate herself on this, but that showed me how criminal it could be, and I really hope that that woman is educating her daughter differently.
The issue of financial control is a very, very serious one, and one that, again, we don't talk about enough, but it's very prevalent in relationships worldwide. So thank you for raising that. It is something that, we really do want to talk about more. But when we talk about worldwide, this is a worldwide conversation. People often ask me, I'm Irish, how is it different being a woman over there? And, I was the breadwinner in my family. I have my own business now. And now in my own business, I've really looked at this. And I do think that financial empowerment, independence for women is a worldwide issue. But it does differ slightly maybe when it comes to different cultures. So this is where, Katja, I'd love to go back to you and ask you, with your experience with your clients from all over the world, how do you see cultural attitudes towards money, and how does that influence your clients' attitudes towards money and happiness?
It's a question which I get very often asked. So how do the wealthy family, how are they different, or also the family offices itself differentiate in the US? So we do an event in New York, in Singapore, in here in the Middle East, in Dubai and in Saudi Arabia, and obviously in Europe where I started. So it is, I would say there is a behavioral difference in that way. If you compare, for example, the Germans, so that's why I can speak about them, in comparison to, for example, here in the Middle East or in the US or even the Russians. For example, in Germany, you would never drive a Ferrari because it has a bad reputation, you cause jealousy, and the super rich families, and I know a few of them from the top 10 out of my head who they collect the cars, but they drive Volkswagen, the smallest version, basically. Here, whereas in Miami, or people say, "Hey, well done," and take photos. So the whole behavior is different family-wise from each region.
Is there any region that you think, I see they've cracked it, they're doing it better than other places, or?
Better than in which terms? So I would say
in the sense of the happiness that their money is bringing to them.
Oh, that's I would say probably. So this comes back to what I said earlier. When the families are, or when the kids are grown up in the family with a love, it all comes back for me and what I find is, especially in this money ruled world, it's all about trusted relationship, love and trusted relationships. So and in Asia you have that culture a lot, here in the Middle East as well. So I think, yeah.
Yeah. So it comes back to love, everything in life, isn't it? You know, it all comes back to your value system. It doesn't matter, you know, your background, your culture, your geography, your education level. You just have a better standard of happiness maybe when love comes in with the money, which helps. I often, you know, I talk a lot about money and values on that, you know, aligning your money with your values for me is where money can help to bring happiness. But in that, there's then sometimes people are a bit confused by that because a prevailing, let's say, mindset or limiting belief or opinion is money is bad. You know, especially for women, we're greedy if we want more money. It's a very common one I hear from my clients saying, I feel guilty to want to be wealthy. So the ladies are smiling. And I wanted to ask, you know, I'll put it out there because, Lan, I'd like to ask you first, is there an ethical way to pursue wealth? And how would, you know, you say one can handle the moral implications of wealth accumulation? Because sometimes we do have to answer to, why do you need more as a woman?
I think that when it comes to just going back to the limiting beliefs that you had mentioned, I think it's about changing those and changing the way we perceive money. I think that we have grown and generations and social consciousness have embedded in our beliefs that money is bad and money is the source of all evil. But as we were saying earlier, money is an enabler. Money is an amplifier. If you're a good person, you're going to do good with money. If you're a bad person, you're likely to do bad things with money. So it's a neutral tool, and it's all about what you do with it. And so I think from our perspective as women, what's relevant is to actually tackle these beliefs. And I think that when you're on a journey to create wealth, probably the first point would be to, look at those beliefs and start changing them, because there's a lot of that, and that is where the beginning, the start of the journey. You can get it right or wrong from there.
I love that, because if you don't challenge that belief, you won't generate wealth, right? You will block it. You will feel guilty. Exactly.
I find, for example, that so many people find it difficult to say, I love money out loud. I love money. And how can you attract or get something that you don't love? But I think it's because there's always that notion of connecting that with being materialistic or...
Yes, and it's removing those negative attachments.
So we need to change all of these narratives.
Yeah. And especially when it comes to women, because it is a different proposition that we are spoken to in these terms. Men are less likely to be told, you shouldn't want the nice fancy car. It's the opposite for them. But you touched on actually over generations, this is getting better. So Rani, I know this is something you're passionate about, like the next generation. How do you have any tips on how we can educate the next generation on how, we can release maybe some of those limiting beliefs to improve their relationship with money and allow it to help them generate more happiness and a more fulfilling life?
If you don't mind, I'm going to speak about it from how women can impact society.
Yes.
By being a lot more empowered and free with money. There was a McKinsey Global Institute report that was saying that by 2025, if we continue with, it's not a very quick way, but if we continue with this, the GDP will be increased by $12 trillion globally, with women coming into the, women starting to earn and to spend. Another thing in that report that I loved, and you feel these things, but you don't know them. So it's really nice that there are studies out there, is that women tend to spend 90% of their income and revenue into their family and loved ones and communities versus, how much do you think men? 35% for men. So what does that mean? When these women, us, are spending towards our families, we are advancing society because that means better health, better education, better empowering of the future generations. So that is how it starts, because patriarchy is what we all lived with. That's what our probably, I was lucky to have had a mother that was working, but there was very few of my girlfriends whose moms were working. So we're really the first generation that can start showing, because at the end of the day, and you know how it is in organizations, when we talk about culture, culture is not values on a wall, it's how you actually behave. So if we are out there making money, those that are at home investing money, showing them that this is happening, giving your children, for example, and I love this, I heard somebody tell me that they did, and I'm going to start putting it in place, the allowance, and telling them this is your allowance, that percentage goes to charity, that percentage you should invest, and that percentage you should, keep. Schools are not doing this yet. So that really comes because we are, as nature, women are nurturing, they like to educate, and this is how we raise the future generation to be more independent financially.
Yeah.
And obviously advance, hopefully, our societies.
So be wealthy for ourselves and everyone benefits.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. So on that note, then, Katja, and I'd love to hear all of your opinions if you want to volunteer as well. What advice would you give to women to seek to grow wealth? We can talk about that. It's good for society, it's good for families, it's good for us, it's empowering, but how do we actually do it?
Ask yourself really the question, what do you really like? What do you really enjoy? What do you really love to do and spend your time with? What gives you the highest excitement? And what keeps you up at night? What do you love researching and learning about it? What doesn't feel like work? It's really because it's your curiosity. And then this is how I actually did it as well, and it worked for me and for some others as well. And then ask your closest friends and maybe your partner, what do they value in yourself? So where do they see your strength, your talents, and what do they like the most about you? So when you then find out what's your passion, I believe money is energy, and so it follows kind of also the law of attraction. So, and I also believe that we are here on earth to live in abundance and to live in joy, and it should be easy. It should not be hard work. So if you find your passion and then which is also important, to live in the now, in the present moment, enjoy yourself. It's like what Eckhart Tolle said, if you live in the now, everything will fall into place. So that's what I can advise. To find the passion.
Thank you.
My advice, in short, is get a mentor. Even after 20 years in the corporate world, when I left and I started wanting to invest, I did not invest a penny before. I invested traditionally in real estate. I got a mentor. He sat down with me. He made me open an online platform to learn how to start investing. And by the way, they're super cool. These online platforms, they feel like Facebook. It's all community-led. It's very female-friendly. I loved it. Second is read. Educate yourself. Because, which is my third, listen to your inner voice. Because investment, and again, I'm talking about investment because that you don't have to be working to invest money. You could invest your husband's, your parents, your, whatever money that you have, and that will grow. So read and follow your intuition. This is a superpower we have that men don't have. Yeah.
I would say that if you have the resources, get a coach. If you don't have the resources, then there is a lot of free resources out there that can help in financial literacy. And you'd be surprised, but so many of us, so many women who have worked many, many years and who are so knowledgeable around so many industries may not actually be knowledgeable around managing their finances. So a coach, a holistic coach, and not to, not to put you on the spot, but Carol is an amazing one, and I know personally. But a holistic coach can help you because they can help you both from the energy side of things to break certain patterns that you have on the, around money and around finances, but they can also handhold you and make the journey a little less overwhelming in how you can manage finances. I think the second thing is when it comes to investing, there's also a misconception that you have to have a lot of money to invest. And that's not true. You can start investing very small amounts. There's a lot of options out there for you to be a fractional investor in big projects, so you can put small money. And more important than the amount of money that you put in, when you actually take that first step to invest, it starts breaking some of the fear, and it starts creating very useful, habits. It starts giving you that confidence of exactly taking, calculated risks. And women are much better investors statistically than men. So that's a very important one. And the last thing I would say is, and this is, unfortunate, but as women, we don't really have so many conversations around finances and around investments. Men go out for a drink or a cigar or a shisha, whatever.
That's what they talk about.
Speak about investment opportunities and deals. And that's how wealth is created. And I think amongst us, we need to start changing that, that narrative and having conversation and asking our girlfriends, have you invested anywhere? Have you, bought a property? Have you put a small amount of money? Whatever that may be. But we start encouraging these conversations amongst ourselves.
Again, it's back to women. When we talk to each other, when we support each other, everybody benefits. We can share this amazing knowledge. So unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time. I think that's a great finishing that we had. Hopefully that from the audience, you've maybe learned a little bit about your mindset, got some investing tips, where to start, follow your passion. It's all about values. Really, it is align your money with your values. If I'll throw it out there one last time. If there's one last statement or a piece of advice you'd like to give the audience before we go? Putting you on the spot?
I loved what Katja was saying in regards to what your passion is, because I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek and the Finding Your Why, and an amazing video out there on YouTube. Look for it. When he says, it's about getting to your why you're doing something, but you can't get to it, as if you're driving, if you don't fuel it, and money is the fuel to get you there. Yeah. Money is not the destination, right? And that I love.
A lot of times, the journey around becoming wealthy or wanting to be wealthy is very connected to self-worth and to self-love, and whether one feels that they're deserving of that. And the truth is, every single woman is deserving of being wealthy. So if you put that and believe that and affirm that in your mind, then it's a nice step, a nice first step.